Welcome back to our channel. Today's lesson is about silencing self-doubt and building the life you truly deserve. Today, we are going to talk about self-doubt. We will look at how to stop it from controlling your future. This is one of the most powerful lessons you will ever hear about this topic. This is something that can completely change your life. Many people wait to feel confident before they take any real action. They wait for their doubt to disappear completely on its own. They wait for other people to approve of their dreams first. They wait for fear to feel smaller before they even try once. They wait for a perfect plan before taking the very first step. They wait for the right moment, even though it rarely arrives naturally. But the truth is, doubt does not disappear before you begin anything. Doubt only becomes quieter after you begin moving forward. The real problem is not a lack of confidence itself. The real problem is waiting for confidence instead of building it through small, consistent action. As you listen to this video, you will also improve your English. Pay attention to the vocabulary. Pay attention to the sentence patterns. The more you listen, the stronger your English becomes. And before we begin, if you enjoy learning English through powerful stories and life lessons like this, make sure to subscribe to English Ascent and continue your ascent with us every single day. Lesson 1. Self-doubt is a feeling, not a fact. One of the biggest lies self-doubt tells you is that it sounds like truth. It arrives with a very confident voice. It feels certain. It feels heavy. It feels like real proof about who you are. But a feeling is not evidence. A feeling is only a reaction inside your mind. Your body simply reacts to uncertainty the same way it reacts to danger. Think about thick fog covering a road early in the morning. The air feels cold and gray. You cannot see very far ahead. The road feels like it might disappear completely just past the headlights. It feels unsafe to keep driving forward into something unclear. But the road has not disappeared. It is still there under the fog, exactly where it always was. The fog only hides it for a short time. Self-doubt works in exactly the same way inside your mind. It sits in front of your dreams like fog sitting on a quiet road. It makes your goals hard to see clearly. It makes your next step feel unclear and unsafe. But your goals have not disappeared. Your ability has not disappeared either. Only your view of them is temporarily unclear. Picture a learner who wants to record her very first English-speaking video. Her hands feel a little cold. Her mind repeats the same worried question. What if my voice sounds wrong? That feeling arrives loudly and confidently, almost like a fact. But it is not a fact about her English. It is only fog sitting in front of a skill. She has been quietly building that skill for months. There is a simple reason doubt feels so strong. Your brain treats uncertainty like danger. Long ago, uncertainty often meant real physical risk. So your brain reacts fast. It sends a rush of worry before you even think clearly. This reaction is old. It is not always accurate today. A new challenge is not the same as a real threat, but your brain has not fully learned the difference yet. That is why doubt can feel so convincing, even when it is wrong. Or picture a man preparing to ask his boss for a raise. His chest feels tight. His thoughts race. He almost cancels the meeting twice. None of this proves he does not deserve the raise. It only proves his brain is treating a normal conversation like a threat. He goes anyway. The meeting is calm. Nothing terrible happens at all. This is true for language learning too. Many learners feel a flash of fear right before they speak. Their heart beats faster. Their throat feels tight for a second. This is not proof that their English is weak. It is only their brain reacting to something unfamiliar. The feeling passes quickly once they start talking. After a few sentences, the fear usually fades on its own. Doubt also loves silence. It grows stronger in a quiet mind with nothing else to focus on. This is why action is such a powerful cure. The moment you start moving, your mind has something real to focus on instead. The fog does not need to fully clear. You only need one small step through it, then another, until you are already standing on the other side. Remember the very first time you ever rode a bicycle. Fear was loud that day too. Your hands gripped the handles tightly. but you pushed forward anyway, wobbling at first. Nobody waits for fear to disappear completely before learning to ride. You simply pedal through the wobble until balance finally arrives. So the next time doubt appears, try a simple test. Ask yourself, is my body reacting, or is this a real fact? Usually, it is only your body reacting to something new, and a reaction is never a life sentence. Most careful drivers do not stop their car simply because of fog. They slow down a little, they stay alert and careful, but they keep moving forward slowly, trusting the road is still there. This is exactly how you should treat self-doubt. You do not need it to clear completely before you move. You only need to slow down, stay careful, and keep going anyway. Now think about your own life for a moment. When doubt tells you that you are not ready, ask yourself one simple question. Is this a fact, or is this only fog? Most of the time, it is only fog. Notice where you feel it in your body. Notice how loud it sounds. Then notice that a feeling, no matter how loud, cannot actually block a real road. And fog always clears the moment you keep moving through it. Remember this, doubt feels like truth, but it is only a feeling passing through you. Lesson 2. Doubt grows in silence. Courage grows in small action. One of the biggest truths about confidence is this. Confidence is not something you find before you start. Confidence is something you build while you are already moving. Waiting for it first will only keep you stuck in the same place. This can last for years. Imagine two people. Both work at the same company. Both are offered the exact same opportunity. Maybe it is a chance to lead a small project for the first time. The first person feels doubt immediately. He thinks, I am not ready. I might fail in front of everyone. I should wait until I feel sure. So he stays quiet in the meeting. He lets the opportunity pass to someone else instead. Weeks later, he still feels the same doubt. Now it is mixed with quiet regret. The second person feels the exact same doubt. Her hands even shake a little when she says yes. Her voice is not fully steady, but she decides that doubt is not a stop sign. It is only a normal feeling before something new begins. She takes the opportunity anyway, doubt and all. At first, she makes several small mistakes. She asks many basic questions. She feels unsure many times during the first week. She admits this openly to her team, but slowly, something begins to change. She learns the process one step at a time. She becomes more comfortable speaking up in meetings. She starts noticing small wins instead of only her mistakes. By the end of the month, she is a noticeably different person. She no longer shakes when she speaks. 1 year later, this single decision has changed the direction of her whole career. Both people felt the exact same doubt on day one. Only one of them let that doubt make the final decision. This is the real difference between people. It separates people who slowly grow from people who stay stuck for years, quietly waiting. Think about starting a cold swimming pool. Nobody feels ready for cold water. The mind always says, wait, not yet. But the moment you feel truly ready never actually arrives. People who jump in quickly feel the cold for only a few seconds. Then their body adjusts fast. People who wait at the edge suffer much longer. They feel the fear again and again, minute after minute. Waiting does not remove the fear. It only stretches it out. Confidence at work follows the exact same pattern. A woman wants to ask for a promotion. She rehearses the conversation in her head for 6 full months. Each day, the fear feels just as strong as the day before. Finally, she asks anyway, nervous and unsure. The conversation lasts only 10 minutes. Afterward, she wonders why she waited half a year for something so short. This is what waiting does. It does not shrink fear. It only extends it. Now think about your own hesitation. What conversation, message, or decision have you been quietly rehearsing for weeks? The rehearsal never makes it easier. Only the action does. Doubt also has a favorite trick. It tells you that later will feel easier than now, but later rarely feels easier. The same fear is usually waiting there too, unchanged. The only real difference between today and later is time. That time is either spent waiting or spent practicing. Small actions add up quickly. One short conversation in English today is worth more than 10 imagined ones. Imagined conversations you never attempt are worth nothing at all. The same pattern shows up with English learning. Two learners can feel identical fear about speaking out loud for the first time. One waits silently for years, hoping the fear disappears on its own. The other speaks anyway, mistakes and all, and slowly builds real fluency through practice. Now think about your own life. Where are you currently waiting for doubt to disappear before you act? Maybe it is speaking English out loud in front of others. Maybe it is starting a new habit or applying for a new job. Maybe it is beginning a new relationship. Doubt will always show up first, every single time, without exception. Courage simply means acting while doubt is still standing quietly beside you. Remember this, you do not need to defeat doubt completely. You only need one small action while it is still there. Lesson 3. You do not need anyone's permission to believe in yourself. One of the biggest secrets confident people understand is simple. They stopped waiting for permission from other people a long time ago. They trust their own judgment enough to move forward. They do not need approval from everyone around them first. Imagine a young man who wants to start speaking English in front of other people. For years, he stays silent in group conversations. He orders food quietly. He avoids small talk with strangers completely. He is always thinking the same private thought. What if my accent sounds strange? What if people judge my mistakes harshly? He keeps waiting for a feeling of full readiness. That feeling never quite arrives on its own. One day, almost by accident, he joins a small English-speaking group. He is forced to speak, mistakes and all, in front of strangers. He has never met any of them before. His heart is racing. His voice shakes a little at first, but nobody laughs at him the way he always imagined in his mind. A few people even nod with quiet encouragement. Slowly, over many weeks, his fear becomes smaller and smaller, week after week. He later realizes something important about himself. He was never actually waiting for permission from other people. He was waiting for permission from himself, and he had simply never given it. The moment he decided his own voice mattered, everything else became noticeably easier. This exact pattern happens in almost every part of life, not only with language. People wait for a boss to notice them before they feel valuable. People wait for a partner to compliment them before they feel attractive. People wait for likes or comments online before they feel talented enough. A young business owner might wait for a big following. She may not trust her own product until then. But real confidence never actually comes from outside approval. Consider this honestly for a moment. Every confident person you admire once felt exactly the same fear you feel right now. The difference is simply this. They gave themselves permission to begin anyway, long before anyone else ever noticed them. Permission can be silent. It rarely arrives as a clear, obvious sign. It usually looks like one quiet decision, made alone, without applause. Nobody rings a bell when you are ready. Nobody sends a message saying, "You may begin now." You simply decide, and then you begin. Picture a woman who wants to start a small online shop. She waits for her family to fully approve of the idea first. She waits for her savings to feel large enough. She waits for a clear sign that she will not fail. Months pass. The sign never comes. Finally, she opens the shop with a small amount of stock. Her heart is nervous, but she opens anyway. Customers slowly begin to arrive. Confidence grows only after she opens, never before it. This is the quiet truth about permission. It is not given. It is taken, quietly, by the person who decides to begin. The same happens with English. You do not need a teacher's approval to start speaking. You do not need a certificate to start believing in your own progress. You only need to decide that today is the day you begin. Now think about your own life. Where are you quietly waiting for someone else's permission to feel worthy? Your value was never something other people were supposed to give you. Consider a musician who waited 10 years for a record label to notice her. She sent demos and waited by the phone for a call that never came. Finally, she uploaded her own songs online without anyone's approval at all. Within 1 year, more people heard her music than in 10 years of waiting. She had been holding the permission the whole time. She simply forgot she was allowed to give it to herself. This happens to English learners too. Some wait for a teacher to say, "You are ready now, you may speak." That sentence rarely comes from anyone else. It has to come from you, quietly, the moment you decide to try. Remember this: the only permission you truly need has always been your own. Lesson 4. Comparison is the thief of self-belief. One of the biggest mistakes people make is measuring their own worth. They use someone else's life as the ruler. Comparison feels harmless at first, but slowly, quietly, it destroys confidence from the inside, one small thought at a time. Think about two rivers flowing down from the very same mountain. One river moves through flat, open land. It flows quickly and smoothly toward the sea. The other river must pass through hard rocks and narrow valleys. It moves much more slowly and carefully. If you only looked at speed, you might think the second river is failing somehow. But both rivers are still moving steadily toward the very same sea. Your life works exactly like that second river. Your path may include more obstacles and more delays than someone else's path. That does not mean you are failing at anything. It only means your journey looks different from theirs, and that is completely normal. Every person's starting point and daily challenges are completely different from each other. Comparing the two paths directly will never be fair or accurate. Social media makes this comparison problem much worse today than ever before. You see someone's confident photo, someone's success story, or someone's fluent English video. Instantly, you feel behind in your own life somehow. But you are only seeing a small, carefully chosen piece of their journey. You never see their early doubts or their private failures. You never see their slow, difficult beginning behind the camera. Picture a young man learning to play guitar. He watches videos of skilled musicians online every single night. He compares his clumsy fingers to their smooth, practiced playing. He feels discouraged and almost quits completely after only 2 weeks. He forgets something important. Those musicians once struggled too. They practiced the very same simple chords he is struggling with now. Consider two farmers planting the same crop in the same season. One farmer has rich, soft soil. His plants grow tall within only a few weeks. The other farmer has dry, rocky soil. His plants grow much more slowly, and he must work harder every single day. If the second farmer only watches the first field, he may feel like a failure. But his soil is simply different. His effort is not smaller. His results simply take more time and more care to appear. Many English learners face very different soil as well. Some learners live surrounded by English every day. Some hear it at work, in movies, and with friends. Other learners must search for every small chance to practice. Their growth looks slower on the outside. But slower growth in harder soil is not weakness. It is simply a harder season, followed eventually by the very same strong harvest. Now think about your own soil. Maybe your days are full, or your resources are limited. That does not predict your final harvest. It only describes your current season. Picture two children learning to ride bicycles on the same street. One child has a smooth, flat driveway to practice on every day. The other child only has a bumpy, cracked sidewalk. The second child will naturally take longer to feel steady. This says nothing about which child will become the better rider eventually. It only describes two different practice grounds. Give both children enough time, and both will ride confidently in the end. Or, consider two gardens planted in different climates. One garden enjoys warm sun nearly every day. The other garden faces cold winds and short summers. The second garden will naturally produce its harvest more slowly. A visitor who only compares harvest size might call the second garden weaker, but the gardener who tends it patiently knows the truth. Every plant that survives a harsh climate grows unusually strong roots. When you constantly compare your beginning to someone else's middle, you will always feel behind. This feeling is not based on truth at all. It is based on an unfair and incomplete comparison between two very different starting points. Now think about learning English specifically. Maybe you compare your speaking to someone who has practiced for 10 full years already. Of course, they sound smoother and calmer right now. That fact says nothing about where you will be 1 year from today, not if you simply continue. Remember this: your only fair comparison is between who you were yesterday and who you are today. Lesson 5. Your past mistakes are not your final identity. One of the biggest truths about failure is this: a mistake describes one single moment in your life. It does not describe your entire future. It does not describe your complete identity as a person. That is true no matter how painful it feels. Imagine two people. Both fail the exact same important exam on the very same day. The first person decides this failure proves something permanent about him. He tells himself quietly, "I am simply not smart enough for this subject." He stops studying completely from that day forward. He avoids the entire subject for years afterward. The failure becomes a heavy wall that blocks his whole future path in that area. The second person fails the very same exam. She feels exactly the same disappointment at first. She cries a little that night, and that is completely normal. But after a few days, she asks herself a different, more useful question. What went wrong exactly? And what can I change next time? She studies differently this time around. She asks her teacher for direct help. On her second attempt, she passes with a much stronger result than before. The exam result was identical for both people on that first difficult day. Their story afterward became completely different. They chose two very different meanings for the exact same event. One person turned a single mistake into a permanent identity. The other person turned that same mistake into a temporary, useful lesson. This happens constantly with English learning as well. All around the world, many learners make one embarrassing mistake while speaking in front of others. They quietly decide, "I am simply bad at English forever." From that painful moment, they avoid speaking altogether for months, sometimes years. But one single mistake was never proof of a permanent limit on your ability. It was only information, quietly showing you exactly what to practice next. Picture a small child learning to walk for the very first time. She falls down many, many times during the process. Nobody ever tells her that falling means she is simply bad at walking forever. Everyone understands that falling is only information, part of the normal learning process itself. Consider how often we forgive small children for mistakes. We rarely forgive ourselves the same way. A child spills a glass of water. Nobody says the child is simply careless forever. We say, "That is normal. Try again more carefully." Yet adults often speak to themselves far more harshly. They would never speak this way to a child. A man forgets an important word during an English conversation. Instantly, he thinks, "I am hopeless at this language." He would never say this to a child learning to speak for the first time. A child is allowed to forget words, mix up grammar, and try again tomorrow. As adults, we deserve exactly the same patience we would freely give to a child. Remember that a child never doubts their ability to eventually learn to walk. They simply keep trying, fall after fall, until walking becomes natural. Your English and your confidence can grow exactly the same way. So the next time you make a mistake, pause for a moment. Ask yourself what a patient teacher would say. Then say that same kind sentence to yourself. Consider how a broken bone actually heals. The bone becomes stronger exactly at the point where it once broke. Doctors call this healed area the strongest part of the entire bone afterward. Your mistakes can work in the very same way. The place where you once failed can become your strongest part. This happens once you decide to heal and continue forward. Picture an old ceramic bowl repaired with gold in the Japanese art of kintsugi. The cracks are not hidden. They are filled with gold and made beautiful on purpose. The bowl becomes more valuable after breaking, not less. Your story can be repaired the very same way. Your mistakes do not need to be hidden. They can become the golden lines that make your story more meaningful. Now think about your own life for a moment. What old mistake are you still carrying around like a permanent label on your identity? A single failed attempt does not define your story. Neither does one hard year. Remember this. Your mistakes are simply information. They were never your final identity. Lesson 6. What you believe about yourself quietly becomes your ceiling. One of the biggest truths successful people understand is this. Your beliefs about yourself do not simply describe your life accurately. They actively shape what you allow yourself to attempt. This happens every single day. Imagine a woman. For years, she has believed she is simply not a confident public speaker. Because she believes this so strongly, she avoids every opportunity to speak in groups. She turns down a presentation at work more than once. She stays silent during important meetings, even when she clearly has valuable ideas worth sharing. One day, her manager asks her directly to lead a short training session. This time, there is truly no way to avoid it. She prepares nervously for many days. She is fully convinced she will embarrass herself in front of her colleagues. But during the actual session, something surprising happens instead. People listen carefully and take real notes. A few colleagues even thank her warmly afterward for explaining everything so clearly and simply. Nothing about her natural ability changed overnight. Not really. What actually changed was the old belief. It had blocked her from ever finding out the truth. She was never actually incapable in the first place. She had simply never tested the old belief. It had quietly limited her for so many years. This exact pattern happens with English learners absolutely everywhere. Someone believes, I am simply not good with languages at all. That single belief quietly becomes an invisible ceiling above their entire daily effort. They practice less than they could. They give up faster after small, normal mistakes. They expect failure before they even begin trying seriously. Picture two students in the very same English class. One believes she has no talent for languages, so she barely practices outside class. The other believes talent matters far less than daily practice, so she reviews new words every single evening. After one full year, their results look completely different. The difference is not talent. It is one small daily belief. Consider a locked gate covered in thick vines. From far away, it looks completely sealed shut. Nobody has touched it in years, or so it seems. But if someone walks closer and gently pushes, the gate swings open easily. The vines only looked strong. They were never actually locking anything at all. Many limiting beliefs work the exact same way. From a distance, they feel absolutely solid, like an unmovable gate. But most beliefs have never actually been tested up close. They simply look convincing, because nobody has walked over and pushed on them yet. The moment you test an old belief honestly, something changes. It often swings open far more easily than you expected. This is true for English too. Many learners believe their accent is a permanent gate blocking real communication. They never test that belief by simply speaking anyway. When they finally do, listeners usually understand them just fine. Picture a plant kept for years in a small, dark room. It grows short and weak, not because of its nature. It grows that way because of its limited environment. The moment someone moves it into bright sunlight, it begins reaching upward almost immediately. The plant was never actually weak. It was simply waiting for a better environment to reveal its true strength. Consider a locked phone with a forgotten password. The phone is not broken. The information inside has not disappeared. You simply need the right combination to access what was always there. Many limiting beliefs are exactly like that forgotten password. The strength was always inside you. You only needed the right combination of effort and time to unlock it. This is exactly how confidence works for most people. It is rarely missing completely. It is only locked behind one small, untested belief. It is simply waiting for you to try the right combination. So this week, choose one belief you have never actually tested. Test it gently. Notice what actually happens, not what you feared would happen. But a belief is not a permanent fact about who you truly are. A belief is only a decision you made at some point. Often, it is based on very little real evidence. Now think about your own life honestly. What is one belief about yourself that might be quietly limiting your effort right now? What would realistically change if you decided to question that belief today? Remember this: your beliefs are decisions, not facts, and every single decision can be changed. Lesson 7. You deserve the life you are building, not the life fear describes. One of the biggest traps self-doubt creates is this: it convinces you that you do not deserve good things yet. It quietly whispers that success, respect, or happiness belong to other people, never to you. Think about a locked door standing between you and the life you actually want. Fear stands beside that door every single day, describing it as permanently locked forever. Fear tells you the door was never meant to open for someone like you. It tells you other people were quietly given a special key. You, somehow, were left out. But this description is not true at all. You are not standing there completely without a key of your own. You are already holding the key in your own hand right now. It only feels invisible. That key is called consistent effort, honest practice, and simple daily discipline, repeated over time. Fear only wants you to believe the door is locked. That way, you never even try turning the key. Many people spend years standing quietly in front of doors. They were fully capable of opening those doors all along. They convinced themselves that a better life belongs only to someone else. Maybe a confident voice, or fluent English too. Someone braver, luckier, or more naturally gifted than them, they believe. But nobody secretly handed successful people a special key that was deliberately denied to you. Picture a small shop owner who dreams of opening a second location one day. For years, she tells herself that expansion is only for people with rich families. Then one day, she finally applies for a small business loan anyway. Doubts and all. The door was never actually locked. She had simply never turned the key. It had been sitting quietly in her own hand the whole time. Consider someone holding a gym membership card for an entire year. They never once visit the gym. The card alone changes nothing. Access alone changes nothing. Only walking through the door and using the equipment creates real change. Deserving a strong body works the same way as deserving a strong life. Nobody deserves fitness simply by owning a membership card. People earn it slowly, workout by workout, week after week. In the same way, nobody deserves confidence or fluent English by simply wanting it. The same is true for a better life. You earn them slowly, honest effort by honest effort. So the key was never about luck or about being chosen. It was always about showing up consistently, one ordinary day after another. This is true whether you feel ready or not. Every single day you keep practicing is a day you are turning that key. You are not waiting for the door anymore. You are opening it yourself. Picture a seed sitting quietly in a sealed packet on a shelf. The packet clearly states everything the seed could become. It might become a tall plant full of flowers or fruit, but nothing happens while the seed stays sealed inside its packet. The moment it is planted in soil and given water, its full potential finally begins. You already carry everything you need inside you. Like the seed, you simply need the right conditions to begin growing. Those conditions are consistent effort and daily practice. Consider a traveler standing at an airport with a valid ticket in her hand. The ticket alone does not move the plane. She still has to walk to the gate and board. In the same way, wanting a better life is only the ticket. Walking toward it, one small step at a time, is what actually gets you there. You deserve the version of your life you are quietly working toward, step by step. You deserve it, not because life is automatically fair to everyone. You deserve it because you are the one showing up. You keep practicing and trying again after every difficult day. Deserving something is not really about luck at all. It is about consistent, honest effort over time. Now think about your own life for a moment. What door have you been standing in front of, believing it is locked? The key has been sitting quietly in your hand the entire time. Remember this: you already hold the key. Fear only wants you to forget that you are holding it. Lesson 8. You are not your doubts, you are your decisions. And the most important lesson of all is this one right here. Everything you have heard so far leads directly to this single idea. This idea is about who you really are. For years, many people quietly build their entire identity around their own doubts. They say, I am simply an anxious person. They say, I am simply not a confident person. They say, I am not the kind of person who succeeds at things like this. Every time they repeat these quiet words, the identity becomes a little more fixed. But listen very carefully to this important idea. Your doubts are only thoughts passing quickly through your mind throughout the day. They are not facts about your character. They are certainly not your permanent identity as a person. A single thought can appear and disappear again within only a few seconds. Your true identity is built from something far more stable than one passing thought. Your true identity is built from your decisions, repeated consistently over time. It is built from the exact moment you decided to keep learning English. That was even after a genuinely difficult day. It is built from the moment you decided to try again. That was after being told no by someone. It is built from the small, quiet choice to keep showing up, again and again. Doubt was still standing right beside you the whole time. You are not your doubts. You are your decisions. You are not the fear you happened to feel this morning. You are the action you chose to take anyway, despite that fear. You are not your worst mistake from last year. You are the person who kept going after it happened. You are not what other people quietly assumed about you. You are what you consistently choose to become, one ordinary day at a time. Think about a sculptor working slowly on a large block of stone. At the beginning, the stone looks rough and completely shapeless. Nobody can see the final statue yet, not even the sculptor fully. But every single day, one small cut at a time is added. Slowly, the shape begins to appear. Nobody becomes their strongest self in one dramatic moment. Instead, one honest decision cuts away a little more doubt, day after day. Slowly, the true shape finally appears. You are that sculptor, and you are also the stone. Every time you choose to keep learning, you cut away a small piece of doubt. Every time you speak English despite your fear, you cut away silence. Every time you try again after a hard day, you cut away surrender. Slowly, patiently, the person you were always capable of becoming starts to appear. Picture a river that once believed it was blocked forever by a large rock. For years, the water simply pushed against the same stone without moving it even slightly. But water does not need force to win. It only needs time and consistency. Slowly, day after day, the rock wears down. Eventually, the river flows exactly where it always intended to go. Your doubts are that rock. Your daily decisions are the water. Given enough time, the water always wins. The life you deserve is not waiting somewhere far off in the future. It is not waiting for you to become perfect first. It is being built right now, today. It comes through the small, honest decisions you keep choosing to make. Every time you choose courage over comfort, you are already becoming that stronger person. It happens piece by piece. Picture the version of yourself 5 years from now, already living with quiet confidence. That version did not appear by accident. That version was built through hundreds of small, unglamorous decisions. Those decisions were repeated on ordinary days exactly like this one. Every sentence you speak despite fear is one of those decisions. Every time you choose to try again, you are building that future person right now. So do not wait to feel finished before you feel proud. Feel proud of the version of you who keeps showing up today. That version is unfinished and uncertain, and still choosing to grow anyway. Remember this: you are not your doubts. You are your decisions, one honest choice at a time. Start today. Start now. Start where you are. The person you want to become is waiting for your decision. Not next month. Not next year. Today, in this exact moment. The version of you who speaks without shrinking is close. The version who believes without needing constant proof is close too. The version who builds a life instead of only doubting one is close as well. That version of you is only one decision away. Every version of the future you have imagined begins with one ordinary day. That day is often a day just like today. Nobody skips ahead to the confident version of themselves. They walk through many uncertain mornings to get there, exactly like this one. That is not a flaw in the process. That is the entire process. You do not need to feel completely ready to begin building that life. You only need to begin, right where you are standing today. Stop waiting for doubt to disappear before you move forward. It never fully disappears, not even for people who succeed. Instead, decide today that your doubts do not get the final vote on your future. Decide that you deserve the life you are quietly building, one honest choice at a time. The world does not need a perfect version of you. The world needs the honest, still growing version of you who simply keeps showing up. Start today. Start now. Start where you are. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video helped you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to English Ascent for a new English lesson every single morning. Leave a comment below with one new word or sentence you learned today. I would love to read every single one. Keep learning, keep growing, keep ascending. I will see you in the next lesson on English Ascent.